Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Westport in South Baltimore, and thank you all for joining us here on this very special day and announcement. I want to acknowledge our partners in the work, starting off with the most important people that you see today, the folks that do this work each and every day, our frontline city workers. Let's give them a big round of applause. Also joined today by our city administrator, Faith Leach. Our city council president, Nick Mosby, is on the way. Councilwoman Felicia Porter, whose district we're in. Thank you, ma'am, for allowing us to be in your district. Councilman Zeke Cohen. I don't know if the councilman came to dress. He didn't come dressed to work today, but we gonna let him slide. Neither did Dan. Where you at, Dan Homowitz? But we're going to get them dirty today nonetheless. Councilman James Torrance and all those who are here today, all of our agency heads. We have our housing commissioner, Councilwoman Ramos, who managed to not get paint on her like I did in Chum earlier today. Who else is back here? I saw Dan Hyman's was here. Justin Elsas is here. Say what? Oh, Director Mitchell. Jason, where are you?
Over here.
Oh, in the back. Jason has managed not to paint or do anything today, but he gonna pick up some trash before we leave here. When I decided to launch Build Better Baltimore, I reflected really on the needs of every single community and every single Baltimorean. As leaders, it's imperative that we use our platforms to do more and truly build a better Baltimore that we all want to see. But many may ask, like, what does that look like? It looks like, to many folks, to Baltimoreans, better roadways, cleaner alleyways, less graffiti and markings, both on city-owned and residential properties, and fewer areas impacted by illegal dumping. And that is why, in a all-hands-on-deck collaboration with DPW, Transportation, Housing Department, we will intensify our efforts to provide our city services. Over the next 90 days, we will repair 9,000 potholes, remove 900 graffiti markings and illegal posters, resurface 9 miles of city roads, and ramp up enforcement of illegal dumping at targeted hotspots like this one here in Westport. Attacking these key areas as a unit will not only help to improve the aesthetic and safety of public spaces throughout our community, but will promote equitable neighborhood development, which is one of the pillars of my administration, as you know. It will help to maintain a clean and safe environment for all our residents and those who visit Baltimore City. I am fully committed to making visible changes within all our communities that will contribute to a sense of pride and ownership among our residents, community members, and our community partners. And by making our buildings, roadways, alleyways, walkways, and green spaces more efficient for everyone to enjoy. A part of developing our neighborhoods means addressing vacant properties, which I am proud to say again today that we have the lowest number of vacant properties with 14,202 as of today that our city has seen in decades, and that's still far too many. And it's important. And it's important for us to create a standard level of care for our residents to know that they can depend on their government and our city agencies to address their concerns at every level. Graffiti, when done respectfully, is art in its purest form. However, unwanted graffiti markings and posters on city-owned buildings and private-owned properties is a problem. I've charged DPW's graffiti removal team to work diligently throughout the next 90 days to help build a better Baltimore by identifying and removing these markers. And as you heard me say earlier, we were in Chum this morning with them, working alongside of them to do that along Hillen and Harford Road. We know that this is no small feat, but the amazing teams we have at these agencies are deeply invested in this work and seeing our city change for the better. They do it when no one's looking. They do it when people are yelling at them. They do it when people are trying to prevent them from cleaning up, and they do it even though they know sometimes people are so trifling that as soon as they clean, they're going to dump it right back. But they do their job each and every day. We are doing all that we can to protect our environment and make our city more beautiful and more sustainable. The overwhelming complaints we have about illegal dumping, about 9,000 of them a year, come from mostly low-income neighborhoods and communities of color. And it tells us that our residents want environmental justice for their communities. On average, we issue over 1,000 dumping citations along with filing criminal charges. The Housing Department has a special investigations unit that will be responsible for escalating their illegal dumping prevention efforts. We want to intensify our use of data analysis to identify target areas and increase use, where feasible, of a variety of technologies like our motion-activated cameras and license plate reader technology. As the mayor of Baltimore and as a native son of this city, someone who has literally worked directly in our communities with our residents for almost 2 decades now, I know how sometimes the issues that people deem and may seem small to others and insignificant are often overlooked too often. But I have seen firsthand how addressing small issues can have the largest impact. Cleaning up that yard for one time for a neighbor to help maintain that vacant property can change that homeowner and that resident's life. Starting this work is a daunting task, and to do it in 90 days presents some challenges. But here in Baltimore, we are no strangers to getting our hands dirty and doing things that folks don't think we can do, but also we always meet challenges head on. These services will benefit so many of our residents, especially as we head into the summer months, and we want everyone to have the best experience possible, wherever they live throughout the city. I want to thank all of my colleagues who have joined us and are partnering with our agencies, the agencies and their team, for their deep dedication to making these improvements. This is something that I'm confident that we will look back on 5, 10, 20 years from now and say, I'm glad we started to do this. And I want to say to the residents that we are not trying to do this alone. We want to do this with you. We want you to help and aid our city workers who are working every day. If you see rats in the street and in your alleys and your yards, call 311. They'll come out and abate that for you, and we'll work with you to make sure that you can maintain that level of cleanliness in your yards. We're going to be paving roads. We're going to be removing graffiti, but we all have to work together to make Baltimore, to build the better Baltimore that we want. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to our city administrator.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I like a call and response. My name is Faith Leach, and I proudly serve the citizens of Baltimore as the Chief Administrative Officer. Every community in Baltimore deserves high-quality city services and a coordinated and responsive city government that they can count on. Early in my tenure, I committed to a relentless focus on doing all that I can to deliver improved city services for the citizens of Baltimore. Well, today is a visible manifestation of that commitment. As you heard from Mayor Scott, over the next 90 days, we will repair 9,000 potholes, remove 900 graffiti markings, surface 9 miles of roads, and we will ramp up enforcement of illegal dumping. During our Build Better Baltimore city service sprints, we will report out regularly on our progress. We will evaluate our service delivery models and identify strategies for service optimization. We'll assess our crew's capacity to deliver services on time, every time. And we will research new technologies that can help us improve our services. We'll leverage our Office of Performance and Innovation and our Chief Data Officer to help us use data to drive better services and to drive our decision making. But that is not all. We will also celebrate the workers that are on the front lines delivering quality services for our city. When I was confirmed, I dedicated my remarks to the nearly 14,000 employees that work for our city. The employees that get to spend their days making the lives of the residents of Baltimore better every single day. The employees that resurface roads, like Eugene Barber, who has served our city faithfully for 37 years. Or Tony Clark on DPW's graffiti team. Mr. Clark told us the story today of how he saw Mayor Scott at Mercy Medical during the pandemic, and he said to the mayor, "You gotta bring the graffiti team back." Within a week, that graffiti team was back serving the residents of Baltimore. That's what we like. Today, the mayor and I stopped by Patapsco wastewater treatment plant, and we met the team that's leading that plant's turnaround. Together, the Patapsco team posted the best affluent numbers in the history of the plant. We should clap it up for Patapsco. These are the folks that get things done for our city. They get it done day in and day out. They sacrifice to make our city better. The DPW solid waste team told me the story of an employee that made the ultimate sacrifice while on the job. So when I say thank you, I mean it. But we also want our residents to get involved. We want you all to join us as we build a better Baltimore by submitting your service request through 311. And we want you to tag us at Build Better, BMore, and we will meet the goals that we set forth. We'll report back out monthly on the progress that we are making. And at the end of the 90 days, we'll implement a set of recommendations that will improve these set of 4 city services. And we'll identify the next city services so we can keep doing it. Thank you so much.
We'll turn it over to the council president, then to the councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Madam CAO. I stand here, and the council stands here. It's not just the council persons whose district that we're in, but I think I can say for all 15 members of the council, we say thank you to the administration. We thank you, Mr. Mayor. We thank you, Madam CAO. And more importantly, we thank each and every member of the Baltimore City employment staff, be it DPW or housing or DOT, that's going to work aggressively to ensure that we're providing the level of services that the citizens desperately need, desire, and more importantly, should be afforded to. That's why we all stand here today. So the Build Better, BMore Blitz is an innovative way, an innovative solution of really connecting the dots. Letting them know, our citizens understand and know that we care about them. Mayor Scott, I saw a tweet, and it said, you know you're in Baltimore if you drive down the street and you hit a pothole and your air condition turns off and your windows roll down and the station turns on your radio. Now the reality is we laugh about it, but that has become normalized. And it hasn't become normalized because not anyone standing up here alone, or even this group collectively. It's become normalized because that, unfortunately, has been a way of life for far too many communities, particularly the communities that we're going to tackle in an aggressive way that have been disproportionately disinvested in for far too long. This is the mayor and the CAO saying, we hear you. And not only do we hear you and we put initiative and a program together to go after and tackle it, but we're going to hold ourselves accountable by tracking the numbers, the data. That is really important. And as Madam CEO said, the reality is with that data can provide a more efficient and effective government to go after and tackle those services. The idea that graffiti is normalized, the idea that we have illegal dumping in certain areas is normalized. The idea that we have the potholes that I just talked about has been normalized is unacceptable, and the administration hears us loud and clear. So as I said earlier, our council stands ready and able, Mr. Mayor, Madam CAO, to help and support you. A lot of times we talk about win-win solutions. This is a win-win solution, but it's a trifecta. It's a win-win-win. For the hard-working men and women that keep our city afloat on a daily basis, this is saying that we hear you. And the way that we back that up to the citizens of Baltimore is we do not allow our communities, we do not allow conditions, we do not allow the normalization of some of these problems that we've talked about over the past 40 years to go unheard of when this blitz is over. We have to keep it going. So when we were on the council, we had this thing called One Piece, where we asked everybody to just pick up one piece of trash a day. You remember that, Brandon? I do. So it's your communities. You are our eyes. You are our ears. but more importantly, you're just as important of all the hardworking men and women of the citizens of City of Baltimore. So again, I commend Mayor Scott. I commend CAO Leach for introducing this amazing campaign. And I don't know if I can say it again any louder. You have your partners in progress on the city council. That's why many of us stand here. And with that, I'll turn it over to the councilwoman of this district.
So I thank you all for coming here today. I want to commend Mayor Scott and CAO Leach for not only highlighting the issues of illegal dumping in South Baltimore, but really just highlighting the community of Westport and communities for so long that have been neglected, they have been de-incentivized, and they have been certainly dumping grounds for many in this city. This is an opportunity for the administration and those on the council not only to progress forward as we approach budget season. We're talking about sustainable methods. I want to make sure that my council members really understand that these sustainable methods come with funding, fully funding agencies to their proper degrees and levels in order that they can do the best job that they can for the citizens of Baltimore. Baltimore deserves better. Baltimore will get better. And as we work having a win-win-win situation, Baltimore will be better. So thank you all so very much, and welcome to District 10.
Thank you, Madam Councilman. Thank you, Mr. President. With that, we will take questions.
We'll start from in here with Lisa from WBAL.
What happens after the 90 days?
We pick 3 other services and go another 90 days. That's what we'll start another blitz after that.
What do you mean?
So we're focused on 3 services for this blitz, and then we'll have 3 other city services that we'll identify and work through to figure out what the next 90-day blitz will be, or the focus for the next 90-day blitz will be.
And what services might those be?
It could be the data will tell us what that is, Lisa.
Okay.
Well, it'll be based on the data.
Or-
Mr. Mayor, let me
Use the mic, sir. We knew you were going to switch the topic.
Of course. Sunday, I got a chance to witness you talk to some youth after what happened in the Inner Harbor. You were speaking to them for about 10 minutes. You mentioned a curfew. What is your message to BPD on how to enforce that curfew?
So we're going to give you guys the full plan about curfew. And this is funny. We were just talking about this earlier before you got here. For those who have been in Baltimore for a long time, I just talked to one of our workers who's 50-something years old. He said, we done had curfew in Baltimore as long as I've been here. This isn't new for us. So what I would say to everyone who is seeing news stories and folks who are trying to make it look like youth curfew in Baltimore is new, it's not. It's been happening as long as I've been alive. People are used to it. It's part of our culture. When I've been in the grocery store or walking on the streets of Baltimore since I said that we were bringing back the enforcement of the curfew, people have been saying thank you. We should have never stopped. Because again, and I'll say this once again, this isn't about criminalizing young people. There is no criminal penalty to young people for curfew. This is about making sure that we're protecting young people in every way, that we're identifying what's going on with them and their families, because it is not normal, or is it okay for 10, 11, 12-year-olds to be outside late hours of the night, miles away from home. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir, you're good.
Mr. Mayor, I just had a follow-up on that. You yourself said that it will not stop the violence that we saw in the Inner Harbor. So why even do it if it's not going to stop that violence?
Let me just come back up to the mic. Let me explain to you why you should do youth curfew. Because if you saw what I and the gentleman standing behind you saw when a 6-year-old got picked up by a police officer and comes into the curfew center and says, I got caught on purpose so I can eat, right? When you've been in the curfew center and you have a 16-year-old girl there who you picked up downtown outside a club only for the mom to come later and say, I don't know why y'all picked her up. We were at the same club. You wouldn't ask me those kind of questions. If you heard the story that I told last week about a young man who came into a youth connection center and told us that my mom is a prostitute. We need help in my family. I'm hungry. I don't have clothes. Can you give me a T-shirt? You wouldn't ask me those kind of questions.
Just to follow up, I mean, I'm saying what you said. You said that it will not stop the violence. So why? It's in response
I'm explaining.
to what happened.
It's not in response to what happened. We were already going to do
What
youth
is
curfew.
in response to then?
I think it's very simple. Very simple. Young people, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, should not be out at 11, 12, 1 a.m., period, without an adult. When you're out there, you become more at risk to being a victim of violence. And not just violence from one young person to another, right? We live in a world where kids are snatched and put in human trafficking. We live in a world where kids are kidnapped and taken away. We live in a world where people disappear each and every day. We will be fools to allow our young people to continue to just walk around aimlessly. We are going to do everything in our power to protect our young people. Yes, we are going to be out there trying to intercede in violence, and I want to... And just to remind everyone that this shooting happened 40 feet away from police officers, right? We have to be reminded that we are talking about individual decisions here. And when we start to have the real conversation about gun violence and why and how, right? Because it's not just about the police department locking people up for guns and shootings and homicides. They do that each and every day. That's why, because this is about the total picture, and keeping young people, as many of them off the streets and protected as possible, is the best thing to do. Brittany?
Yeah, I just have two questions, and they're about the announcement today. For starters, are there any other areas with high priority? I know we're in South Baltimore, and you're kind of focusing on here. What does the timeline look like in terms of other places in the city with these same issues?
So in 90 days, it'll be all of the city that has the high areas. Like we said, Brittany, earlier today, we were in Chum for the graffiti removal. We know that that's an area that also has illegal dumping issues. They actually are also one of our clean core communities. We know that places in West Baltimore, East Baltimore, Northwest Baltimore, Northeast Baltimore, other parts of South Baltimore, just over in Cherry Hill and Curtis Bay, all of the areas that we know historically have been ignored are the areas that we're going to focus on. And we also know that most of the time those are the areas where the roads are the worst as well.
Okay, and then my second question for you all, how are the people being penalized, if at all, when they are seen doing what everyone has worked so hard to undo? So like putting the graffiti back, putting trash back on the grounds, illegal dumping. What can you tell the people if they're found doing this, and how they'll be penalized?
Yep, I'll let Deputy Commissioner Hessler go through what he and his fabulous legal team do when we catch people from all over, all counties, all over the place, dumping illegally in Baltimore.
Jason Essler, Baltimore City Department of Housing, Community Development. I oversee the Special Investigations Unit. We respond to over 9,000 service requests, and we monitor over 70 hotspots in the city where we know people are going to dump. We have cameras in many of those hotspots, and we move them all around the city. When we catch individuals that are illegally dumping and we have sufficient evidence, we criminally prosecute them. We have attorneys that work at the Department of Housing that are cross-designated as assistant city state's attorneys and city solicitors. So we go after them with criminal penalties. We look to get them to clean up the mess that they made, to reimburse the city for the costs. In many cases, they face community service as well as fines. If it's based off of commercial dumping, the fines are much higher if it's for a commercial benefit. So we have that tool, as well as the ability to cite people that are not that are illegally dumping or are not following the residential trash rules, because trash not being put out properly and disposed of properly, or backyards not being kept properly, attracts illegal dumping and other trash. So our agency focuses in on that, and we work with our partners at the Department of Public Works to make sure that it gets cleaned up.
So this is coming from a combination of existing sites that we've already identified and 311 calls that people will be calling in over the next 90 days, correct?
Yes.
So how will people know if their site is already identified? Like, where can they find that information?
Well, when you put 311s in, we track that, and you're able to track where that is, where your request is in the process. That won't be any different on that end. People can always, residents always have the ability to track that. We are just focusing on these services writ large for the next 90 days.
And then following up on that, what would you say to people who say, you know, this should be something that's happening all of the time? This is just the responsibility of city government.
So I would say that these, as I started out with, the most important people, they're always doing this work. They do this work each and every day. This is about us uplifting and focusing in on that work, uplifting that work, supporting that work in a deeper way, but also, as you heard us, making a call out to our residents to support their work each and every day too, right? Imagine if you were doing your reporting every day only for someone to delete it as soon as you posted it, right? That's what happens to them. They go and they clean out an alley, they clean out a yard, they clean up porta potties out of the alleys that people have dumped full, and then someone comes and puts it right back. We need the residents to support our workers because it's not like they don't show up every day to work. They show up rain, snow, we don't have snow anymore, sleet, hail, 20-degree days, 60 wind days, all of that to do that work, and we're going to support them, but we need everyone to support them. How many times do they have to clean a corner trash can only to see someone dump trash right next to the trash can? We as people in Baltimore have to be better to support them as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank y'all.
Thank you.